so I heard a massive I'm not exactly sure what it is right now. I'm gonna go watch the news. I'm gonna put this on a tripod and go watch the news. Okay, now I have it on the tripod. Oh my God. They believe it was an airplane. I'm gonna go watch the news now. Okay, come on, Booby. You should see there's stuff falling off the building. Oh my God. Oh, I heard the plane, Kelly. I didn't see it happen, but I heard the whole thing. I heard the engine, the plane engine, and then I heard this massive explosion. And Booby started crying. And I looked down and I couldn't believe my eyes. I'm filming the whole thing right now from our apartment. I can see it all burning up. You know how you can see the Twin Towers from our house? Yeah, she knew. Oh my God, you should, I have a videotape of it. You should just see this thing. Wow. Oh my God. Are they saying, I should get off the phone because Dave might be trying to call me because I left a message. I'll call you back. Oh my God! Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Who is this? Is it another airplane? Okay, I was watching CNN and then it looked like another airplane. But it looks like now it's the other tower that's burning up. It's the other building. I think another airplane crashed into it. I feel like we're under siege. The other tower is now on fire, the other World Trade Center. It was like an airplane that crashed into the other one. I don't know what to do now. What are they saying? It's like an air. Another airplane flew into the second tower, Kelly. I feel like we're under siege. I was watching CNN and there was another airplane and then there was an explosion. Oh my God, now the other one's on fire. I can see both buildings on fire. Because we're under siege. I don't know what's going on. I don't know. Okay. Oh my God. Now an airplane has hit, separate airplanes have hit both World Trade Center towers. Oh my God. It's so bad. It's so bad. I feel like we're under siege or something and I don't know where to go or what to do. Because from my apartment, I can see both of them just burning up. think it must be a foreign. I think it must something bad. Don't you think? So do I. I think it's terrorism. There are so many people in the World Trade Center. Do you know how often I go down there? That's where I shop. Exactly. And that second one looked like it was headed straight for it. It was targeting it. Everybody's on cell phones. I can't get a hold of my husband. I can't get a hold of him. He's going. I gotta go. You know, I got a new video camera, and I've had it going ever since. And I may have the second crash on the video.
I think they've evacuated the building. Because they're right next to the World Trade Center building.
Oh. You should see this. It's definitely terrorism. I mean, what else would it be? 2 planes. The second plane, Kelly, you could see it. It turned to hit it. You should hear my neighborhood. Oh, tell me about it. I'm looking up. It's so weird because I'm looking down at the street below me. Okay. There's something going on. There are people running down my street. I'm not sure what's happening now, but hello? Who is this? Oh, Mary. We're fine. David is flying today. He was going to Cleveland. And we can see the whole thing from our house. And I saw this like a plane crash into the snow. It's very scary here. And now there are people running down my block and I don't know what's going on. I pray he's in Cleveland. No. I called his secretary. He left here early this morning. I think he was going straight to the airport. I called his secretary. He said he's scheduled to travel today. Which I knew. So, now they're saying that the planes were hijacked. And I'm just scared, Mary. I have the whole thing on videotape. I think I even videotaped the second plane crashing into the building. I just set my camera up and turned it on. It's scaring me now though because there are people running down my street and I don't know what they're running from. Like maybe the subway? I don't. She's gone now. He always flies American. Or, well, not always, but it's impossible to know, Mary. I don't know. But I think the planes that were, one of the planes they said was a plane from Boston. It was hijacked in Boston. So I don't think that they can really hijack it in New York and take it, you know what I mean? Oh, it's so scary from here, I can't even tell you. I mean, there's stuff flying through the air. I totally feel like we're under siege. I really do. I could go downstairs. I'm like afraid to move now. There are people running in my neighborhood. Well, my nanny was supposed to come, but I assume she's not coming today, obviously. You should see this thing on fire. You can't even imagine it. I can walk there in 5 minutes. I know. I would just wish, I hope to God, I just pray Dave's in the air and then he'll call me when he gets there. Oh, he'll be very afraid once he finds out too. Okay, but you know, I want to get off the phone because it's bye. Hi, honey. Come here now and see me. Oh, Booby, this is so bad.
Major, before you get away, and I apologize with you if I'm asking you to repeat something. I'm having a little trouble hearing you.
Oh, God.
Do you know exactly where the president was when he was told?
He was just arriving here in Sarasota at Emma E. Booker Elementary School. He had taken an early morning jog this morning in Sarasota, had just arrived here with a presidential motorcade. Then the spectacular, horrific pictures began appearing on television sets here at the elementary school. The president received a telephone call from Condoleezza Rice, National Security Advisor. Then he received an update from his chief of staff, Andrew Card, traveling with him. Then it was made clear to the press traveling with the president he would make a statement. Shortly before that statement, he was actually sitting down with some children here at the elementary school, reading them a book. Reporters asked him if he knew about the situation with the Twin Towers. He nodded and said he would talk about it momentarily. In fact, he did. We just heard the president's statement declaring this an apparent act of terrorism. Yes,
Let me interrupt you here. Senator Kennedy is speaking in Washington. Again, one of the planes was hijacked from Boston. The president can hear the senator now.
Underline the point that it is postponed. They are not going to see the business of America deferred because of terrorism, whether it's in education or in another area of the public policy. We're looking forward to hearing from the First Lady on a subject matter which is of central concern to all families in this country, and because of her experience and her leadership, this committee and the Congress and American people have benefited greatly from her comments, and we will look forward to an early
Senator Kennedy in Washington. Chris Plant, CNN producer, is at the Pentagon, where there is a significant fire. Chris, you're on the phone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you just fine.
Tell me what you know.
Well, arriving at the Pentagon a short time ago, there was a huge plume of smoke which continues to rise from the west side of the Pentagon over in the area where there is a helicopter landing zone. It's along Route 27 if you're looking at maps of the area. The building is currently being evacuated, and police and emergency units are, of course, responding from all around the building and from the local Arlington County Fire Department. The plume of smoke is enormous. It's a couple of hundred yards across. At its base, it is billowing into the sky, hundreds of yards. It's impossible for me to say from this side of the building whether the building itself is on fire or up in flames, or exactly what caused it. I did not hear an explosion, but there is certainly a very, very significant fire in this enormous office building on the west front. The building is being evacuated. The Defense Protective Service officers, the police force for the Pentagon, are on a very tight string right now. As I arrived, I was told at one point.
Chris, let me interrupt you for a second. Just hang on. Don't go anywhere. We're getting reports now that the White House is being evacuated as well. We don't know precisely what has caused that decision to be made, whether that's precautionary, whether something has happened at the White House. Again, the president is in Florida this morning, so the president is not in any danger, but the White House, of course, is fully operational, whether the president is there or not. And we have reports that the White House is being evacuated. Getting back to Chris in a moment, we also have reports now from Chris Plant on the scene that the Pentagon is being evacuated as well. All of this coming on the heels of a large fire at the Pentagon, and we can't tell you at this moment whether that fire is inside the Pentagon building itself or on the grounds of the Pentagon. And these two planes that you can see behind us that hit the World Trade Center, that's Washington, the old Executive Office building, I believe, and you can see the plume of smoke behind it, which we will assume until we're told otherwise that that's the fire at the Pentagon. I believe that's correct as you look now at Washington. So we've got a major fire at the Pentagon, and the Pentagon being evacuated, the White House being evacuated, and we don't know precisely the circumstances there, what caused that decision. And we have these two enormous explosions at the World Trade Center here in New York, where two planes slammed into the buildings.
Whoa, look
We
at
are also
this.
getting reports now that there is a fire on the mall in Washington, that part of the Capitol that runs
In Washington,
essentially from the
too.
Capitol to the White House in kind of a straight line going up Washington, D.C., and we have reports of a fire there. What you're looking at now is Washington, at least if I could see the monitor in front of me.
Oh
It's a
my
little
God, we're
tricky
under
from where we
siege.
are.
Yeah.
That looks to me like the old executive office building, and then in back of it, you see the large plume of smoke. Here in New York, the sirens everywhere, people out in the streets staring at this grotesque scene of the World Trade Center buildings. It was in February of '93, if memory serves
I
me
was right
correctly,
here when
that there was an
it
attack, a
Yes,
terrorist
they blew
attack
up,
on the
yeah.
World Trade Center.
I could hear it
Exploded in the
the
garage
day.
of the Trade
This-
Center
this
on
is
that
when
day
they blew up the
February
Trade Center that day. I was
Here
right.
we are.
No,
Oh, I heard this. I mean, police
I
started
almost
screaming.
was out of my mind.
Deliberate attacks on the World Trade Center, and then we have these two reports out of Washington, the fire at the Pentagon. Chris Plant is still on the phone, I do believe. And we'll get to him in a second. Greta Van Susteren is at National Airport in Washington. Greta, what are you hearing?
I just got off my plane. I took the New York planes installed. I'm at National Airport on the parking lot. I heard a huge noise. I looked over in the direction of the Pentagon. There's a huge plume of smoke coming from that area. I can't verify it's the Pentagon because there are buildings in the way. The particles coming down in the air, the white particles. I can't tell what that is. I heard a noise right
Yes,
before
because
I
I got no, there was nothing wrong because I left the house like a little bit after 8.
See?
So it happened when I was on the train.
8:45.
Yeah, I was on the
And then the other one happened at like 5 after 9.
I was on
first go up and 30 years.
That's why when we got to
Greta,
72nd Street, there was no service coming in here.
Recap as we pick up small pieces of information along the way. Associated Press is reporting that it was a plane that crashed at the Pentagon, and the Pentagon is being evacuated. There is a large fire there, and that is the smoke you see in the shot that you're looking at now.
We're in war.
Whether that fire
Yes,
is
we're
in
in
the
war.
building itself or outside,
World
we
War.
have not yet confirmed. There is a fire on the mall in Washington. The cause of the fire on the mall in Washington, we cannot yet tell you. We can tell you that the White House has been evacuated, and we can tell you that 2 planes have crashed into the World Trade Center in New York. All of this began just a little more than an hour ago, at about 8:45.
I hope Stacy do not.
Chris Plant, tell me.
I
what
wonder
you
what's
learned
going
since
on
we
in the
last talked.
school with Daniel. I hope she's
Oh, I'm
not
sure
at
the school's canceled.
Yes,
I'm sure they sent
I hope she's not at work.
I was told by several people that there was in fact an explosion. I was told by one witness, an Air Force enlisted, senior enlisted man, that he was outside when it occurred. He said that he saw a helicopter circle the building. He said that it appeared to be a U.S. military helicopter, and that it disappeared behind the building where the helicopter landing zone is. Excuse me. And that he then saw a fireball go into the sky. I'm attempting to make my way around to that side of the building in my car right now to see if I can get a better visual perspective on the scene on that side of the building. But I can tell you that security has certainly clamped down. The U.S. Park Police and other federal law enforcement department has arrived in force on the scene. There's a Park Police helicopter overhead. Every car that arrives at the gate where I was located was being stopped by officers at gunpoint. Everyone is being forced out of their vehicles as they arrive at the Pentagon. Very tense situation, obviously, but initial reports from witnesses indicate that there was, in fact, a helicopter circling the building, contrary to what the AP reported, according to the witnesses I've spoken to anyway, and that this helicopter disappeared behind the building and that there was then an explosion. That's about all I have from here.
Okay, let's do this, Chris. Why don't you continue reporting, and we'll pass along a couple of other things that we're picking up along the way. Trading at the New York Stock Exchange. The Stock Exchange, as many of you probably know, and some of you don't, is in that part of Lower Manhattan, not quite as far down as the Trade Center, but it was in that part of Lower Manhattan, and trading has been suspended there. Bridges and tunnels coming into New York have been closed. That will create a whole different set of problems. We are also being told that the FAA has suspended takeoffs and landings. And I want to make sure I get this right, guys, that at all airports around the
to get back home.
Will you call me when you get home?
Yes,
Call me when you get home, let me
I'm
know.
going out to see if Stacy left Daniel in school or what's going on, and then I'm gonna go
Go
home.
home, okay.
Yes.
Police
Okay,
and
thank
fire departments are trying
Give
to
me a
figure
call when
out
you get home.
what exactly
Okay,
is going on.
I'm sorry you had to come down.
Now,
Oh my
incidents
God, he looks like a man.
that look for all the
In
leaders
his
now
long
to
sleeve
be a
shirt.
major
I see you on
terrorist attack
Thursday,
here in the United
Cindy.
Give me a
States.
call.
Yes,
So
I will.
all airports
Say bye,
all
Dory.
across
Thanks
the
for
country
coming.
are closed.
Oh, so David is
All
coming back.
bridges
He's trying to get home from the airport.
are closed.
All
The
flights are
Pentagon
closed
is being
down.
Yes, yes.
evacuated Or is being
All right.
evacuated.
Oh, my
The White
goodness.
House is being evacuated. The president, who is in Sarasota today to make a speech on education, has spoken briefly to cameras and will shortly make his way back to Washington. They are checking out Air Force One now. Let's go to Atlanta. Chad Myers can talk to us a bit about the air traffic problems. Chad, are you there?
Aaron, yes, all of the airports across the country have been shut down. We started with Zone New York, which includes Islip, Newark, JFK, LaGuardia, all the way down to Philadelphia, and then IAH, Houston, and then San Francisco, and then LA. They were just falling like a deck of cards, and then all of a sudden the FAA just said, we're shutting down everything. All flights have been canceled for another 7 hours, which is about 5 o'clock. Eastern time, and then we'll reignite there. We'll take a look what's going on after that. The probability of extension, as they call that, is high, which means even after 5 o'clock, the airports may still be shut down. We'll keep watching it for you here from Atlanta.
Chad, just, and if you don't know, just say you don't know. Can you recall a situation where every airport in the country had been shut down?
Absolutely not, except in wartime, of course, Aaron, and obviously this is not that. But with all the airports, as they were going down from west to east, we could see them, and then we could eventually see from New York, and then they canceled Boston, as we got the report that the first flight, or one of the possible hijack flights, did come out of Boston, and then it just started going down from there. But never, ever before have we ever seen all of the airports shut down like this, not this quickly.
Chad, thank you. Stay on this for a while. We'll get back to you. We know that many people are just joining us. We want to get everyone on the same page before we move on. So one more time, let's go through the sequence of events. At about 8:45 Eastern Time, a plane crashed into the foremost of those towers that are the World Trade Center. That's Air Force One you see in Florida. The president on board. Obviously, extraordinary security around the plane before the president got on. The president was heading back to Washington. A short time ago, the president made a statement. He said, terrorism against our nation will not stand. The government will hunt down those responsible. Mr. Bush said today we've had a national tragedy. 2 planes that crashed into the World Trade Center in an apparent terrorist attack on the country. And we also have a report now that it was a plane that crashed into the Pentagon, and we have a large fire at the Pentagon. The Pentagon is being evacuated as we speak now. The White House has been evacuated as well. CNN's John King joins us on the phone. John.
Aaron, I'm standing in Lafayette Park directly across from the White House, perhaps about 200 yards from the White House residence itself. The Secret Service has pushed most people all the way back to the other side of the park, trying to avoid having that touch me at the moment. Just moments ago, they started slowly evacuating the White House about 30 minutes ago, and then in the last 5 minutes, people have come running out of the White House and the old Executive Office building, which is the office building right directly across from the White House. About 10 minutes ago, there was a white jet circling overhead. Now, you generally don't see planes in the area over the White House. That is restricted airspace. No reason to believe that this jet was there for any nefarious purposes, but the Secret Service was very concerned, pointing up at the jet in the sky. It is out of sight now, best we can tell. They've evacuated the entire White House staff and the old executive office, as well as the townhouses that are government offices. Many of our viewers might know Blair House, where other international leaders stay when they are in Washington. That block of townhouses has been evacuated as well. They are pushing us now back toward 8th Street, which is the next main street to the north from Pennsylvania Avenue across from the White House.
John, hang on one second. We're also getting reports at the Capitol, the Treasury building also being evacuated. John, was this evacuation from the White House, was it orderly? Did it seem panicky? How would you characterize it?
It started off as orderly, much like you get when there are occasional bomb scares near the White House, but then, again, in the last 10 minutes or so, the people who came out the last several hundred I saw leaving the grounds were told and ordered by the Secret Service to run. They were running through the gates. These are, of course, professionals in business suits. I'm also told that prior to that, and we don't know the current situation, that the vice president and other administration officials on the scene were meeting in the White House Situation Room, which is in the basement of the White House. Whether they had stayed on the complex or not is unknown to us at this moment. I spoke to an administration official shortly after the president delivered his statement. He said, obviously, the operating assumption here is terrorism. The initial assumption, this official said, was that this had something to do, or at least they were looking into any possible connection with Osama bin Laden. The administration recently released a warning that they thought Osama bin Laden might strike out against U.S. targets.
Just to add, John, a bit to what you've been saying, we're getting a report from Associated Press now that the White House was evacuated after the Secret Service received what AP is describing as a credible, a credible threat of a terrorist attack against the White House itself. And I expect you'll be checking that out. We'll try and confirm that. That's what AP is reporting right now. Again, this all began about an hour and 15 minutes ago here in Lower Manhattan when the first of two planes crashed into the first of the two towers behind me at the World Trade Center. And you can see the smoke billowing out of the front tower now. And then about a half an hour later, just as emergency crews were converging on the scene, as eyewitnesses were gathering on the street corners, a second plane drove into, and you can see that plane coming around the building right now in this tape, and there you can see the hit as it comes through what looked to me at least, and this is the first time I've seen that tape, come through the back side of the tower. I guess that would be the south side of the tower, and then the smoke and flame coming out the front side. Again, that was about a half hour after the first attack, which was at about 8:45. Look, we want to be careful here. We don't want to get too far ahead of this, but obviously this has all the appearances of an extraordinarily well-coordinated and devastating terrorist attack here in the United States. Certainly nothing like it since Oklahoma City, and nothing like it here in New York since the terrorist attack on the same World Trade Center buildings in February of 1993. At the Pentagon, a plane or a helicopter has crashed, apparently as part of whatever this operation has been, and Jamie McIntyre is there. Jamie, what are you hearing?
Well, Aaron, there is a lot of confusion there at the Pentagon. It appears that something hit the Pentagon on the outside of the 5th corridor, on the Army corridor. Several Army officers I talked to reported hearing a big explosion, seeing shards of metal coming past their window. The Pentagon has been evacuated. Emergency services personnel were rushing to reports of several people trapped in the building. Most of the building's 24,000 people are outside of the building or in the center courtyard as an emergency team try to sort out what has happened here. There is, of course, thick black smoke billowing from the scene. There's a lot of confusion. The Defense Protective Service, which is the police force here in the Pentagon, has been urging people to get out of the building and move away from the scene so they can handle the emergency situation. Again, it appears that an aircraft of some sort did hit the side of the Pentagon, the west front, which faces sort of toward the cemetery. So according to a lot of Army officers who were located, and so I think it's just a huge explosion. You can see a billowing smoke rising, and I'll tell you that I can't see that second tower, but there was a cascade of sparks and fire, and now it looks almost like a mushroom cloud of explosion. This huge.
Oh my God, something else blew up.
This was the second of the two towers hit. And I cannot see behind that smoke, obviously, as you can't either. The first tower in front has not changed. And we see this extraordinarily and frightening scene behind us.
Oh my God.
The second tower, now just encased in smoke. What is behind it? I cannot tell you. But just look at that. That is about as frightening a scene as you will ever see. Again, this is going on now in 2 cities. We have a report that there's a fire at the State Department as well, and that is being evacuated. So we've got fires at the Pentagon evacuated, the State Department evacuated, the White House evacuated on the basis of what the Secret Service describes as a as a credible terrorist threat. We have 2 explosions, 2 planes hitting the World Trade Center here in New York. And what this second explosion was, it took place about part of the south, that was the south tower, was apparently collapsed. We don't know if that was from the impact of this first plane that hit it, or whether something else has happened there. We'll work on that. Our Washington Bureau Chief, Frank Cesno, is on the phone. Frank, what do you hear?
Karen, I just drove past the Pentagon across the 14th Street Bridge, which is now totally traffic. We're beginning to hear emergency sirens and rescue personnel standing out across Washington. There is a gigantic black billowing cloud of smoke that is rising over the Pentagon. You heard Jamie McIntyre a moment ago describe where that was coming from. I can also tell you local radio, in addition to talking about evacuations, as we've heard, the Pentagon and the White House is reporting that the Capitol buildings have been evacuated and the Treasury Department has been evacuated. Washington, D.C., the nation's capital, is exceptionally tense and clearly taking steps as if it is virtually under siege here. We don't know specifically, as you said, what has taken place at the Pentagon, but this is very serious, striking at the heart of the national government. And as John King was explaining,
Frank, it's Aaron. I need to interrupt you for a second. Again, there has been a second explosion here in Manhattan at the Trade Center. We are getting reports that a part of the tower, the second tower, the one a bit further to the south of us, has collapsed. We are checking on that. We're also told that the Sears Tower in Chicago has been evacuated. And what I can't tell you on that is whether there was something specific that happened there, whether there was an attack on that building yet, we're checking that out, or whether there was a warning, whether there was a threat of some sort, or whether that is simply precautionary. What we can tell you is that just in the last several minutes here, 2 or 3 minutes, a second or a third, I guess technically, extraordinary event has happened here in Lower Manhattan. You can see this extraordinary plume of smoke. That is, or was, at least, the second tower, the World Trade Center. Perhaps 3 or 4 minutes ago, you could, from where we were standing, see that second building that is just a bit to the south of the first building, but you can't see it anymore. It is covered with smoke. A large plume of smoke also coming still from the first tower, where the first plane hit at about 8:45. We can, by the way, if we can cue the tape, we can show you that second attack, or at least the second explosion in the Trade Center that occurred at about 9:15 Eastern Time. As you can imagine, there you can see to the right of the screen a plane coming in. We do have a report of a hijacked United Airlines plane. It comes into the south side, and then boom, you can see the fire coming out the front, or the north side of the building. I guess that'd be the northeast side of the building. And then just in the last several minutes, there has been a second explosion, or at least, perhaps not an explosion, perhaps part of the building simply collapsed. And that's what we saw, and that's what we're looking at, as the smoke now just covers Lower Manhattan, almost as far to the end of Manhattan Island as you can get, is where the trade centers are. The Sears Tower in Chicago has been evacuated, and we continue to check on the circumstances there. The Pentagon, the State Department, and the White House have been evacuated in Washington as well. The President has said, we can show you now what happened just a few moments ago at the Trade Center. Watch the building to the left, to the back of those 2 buildings. This is just a few minutes ago. We don't know if something happened, another explosion, or if the building was so weakened, it just collapsed. But we have one of our producers on the phone, and I didn't get the name, so why don't we just go ahead? You there?
Yeah, this is Rose Marcy on New York.
Rose, tell me what you know.
Just a few minutes ago, we saw there's a portion of the building where the first plane struck that seemed to be buckling inside itself, almost as the top of the building was going to fall. Shortly after that, 2 people, and it's hard to tell whether they were being pushed or they physically approached themselves. The sort of river side of the building would be the west side of the building, and it appeared to jump. from the top floor, just under where you're seeing the smoke and fire.
That is extraordinary. The South Tower, the World Trade Center, has collapsed. Again, tell me, how long ago was it that you saw this?
This must have been about 5 minutes ago, and prior to that, you could see heads popping out of windows right beneath where that big gaping hole is. So there appeared to be people alive right below where the crash point was. So we're trying to find some way out of there. And just as the thing started to buckle, you saw them plummeting from that top floor.
Right, and Francis is stating the obvious. We apologize for that, but obviously people were already at work here at the Trade Center when this happened. We don't know how many people have been hurt in all of this. We have no idea at this point. As you look at an aerial shot coming from the, I guess that would be coming from the south of the Trade Center, or what is at least the Trade Center behind those huge plumes of smoke. All airports across the country, every airport in the United States has been shut down as the FAA and the government tries to figure out exactly what has happened, what is at risk, what is not, who is behind it. Are there more explosions, more attacks yet to come? Here in New York, trading on the New York Stock Exchange has been suspended, at least for now. All bridges and tunnels coming into the city have been shut down as police try and clear the way. We can tell you, as we were coming in, perhaps an hour ago, there was a convoy, I can't think of a better word, a convoy of fire and police trucks racing down the West Side Highway. This is in the middle of rush hour. Obviously, every available fire unit here in Manhattan has been brought to the Trade Center. Outside the White House, John King, our senior White House correspondent. John.
Hello, Aaron. They have pushed us even further back away from the White House now, and there are more than a half dozen fire trucks. Some of the Secret Service now patrolling the perimeter of Lafayette Park, which is directly across from the White House, have automatic rifles drawn to keep people away from the park, and they're policing back and forth. You can probably hear additional fire apparatus arriving on the scene. Senior White House staffers who were evacuated, all they can tell us is that they were told that there was a credible threat on the White House as well, and that they were told to evacuate the premises. What we do not know is whether or not the Vice President and the National Security Team have stayed inside the White House Situation Room. We know that they were directing and monitoring operations from there as of just about 15, 20 minutes ago. But the White House staff, the Executive Office Building staff, and all the office buildings around, including the Treasury Department, and some government and some non-government office buildings, people have been evacuated out into the street. And again, the Secret Service now putting up yellow police line tape, and some of them patrolling Lafayette Park with automatic rifles, which is a scene quite extraordinary here across the White House.
John, tell us if you can what the government's national security apparatus will do right now. I mean, what do you guess is happening, and where is it happening?
Well, I don't guess at all, but from the White House Situation Room, a president or vice president can direct a war, can direct a full-scale world war. The White House Situation Room is where all information is accessible to all information from the United States military, from the Federal Emergency Management Agency, from the Federal Aviation Administration in this case. So the White House Situation Room is prepared just for situations like this, unfortunately, to be prepared in a time of crisis for the president to monitor incoming information and to direct any U.S. military or non-military emergency response. The White House Situation Room is a bomb shelter. For that matter, that part of the White House is a bomb shelter. Whether or not they have stayed in there is unclear. We know in the past that will be the routine. We just do not have a direct answer as yet, because most of the staff, if not all of the staff, has been evacuated from the premises.
So I gather you're not able to get any calls into the building right now, or at least not getting them answered at this point.
Calls you get into the building are not answered at this point. There are more fire apparatus showing up now as we speak. We saw most of the senior staff come out. We have not seen the national security staff that we would recognize anyway, but I should know there are other gates from the White House. We are on the north side.
We're being brought out by the sirens. Alan Frank of our bureau here in New York joins us on the phone. Alan, where are you?
I'm calling Jennifer West also just arrived. She was closer to the building. I'm just south of Canal Street, about 10 blocks north of World Trade Center. And just before 10 o'clock, parts of the building began peeling away. People started screaming. Jennifer tells me, because she was a little closer to the building, that the police began yelling, "Run, run!" And thousands of people started running away from the buildings as they were falling. That was, of course, followed by an onrush of ambulances and special police vehicles. Some people were told us, although I can't confirm this, that dozens of stories of the building have fallen away, maybe down as low as the 30th floor.
And again, just because we lost a little bit at the beginning, where are you physically now? This is
I'm just south of the Holland Tunnel in downtown Manhattan, perhaps 10 to 15 blocks north of the World Trade Center.
Got it. And the pictures that our viewers are looking at, this was that collapse of the South Tower just a few minutes ago here in New York.
Yes, and moments after that, people began running toward us. Jennifer Westover, who normally is at the stock exchange, was only about 5 blocks away, and she saw the same thing.
Alan, thank you. Let me go to one of New York's deputy mayors, Randy, the former deputy mayor. What are you hearing, Randy?
I only know what I have seen on television. I'm trying to talk to some friends.
Here we go. Hand me the microphone. There we go.
I only know what I have heard on television. I'm trying to speak to some friends, obviously. Phone lines, communication is difficult. Nothing prepares you in life for a senseless tragedy like this one, but there is no city better prepared to deal with such emergency situations than New York City.
Tell me, based on your plan, what is happening 30 blocks away?
Mayor Giuliani established early on an Office of Emergency Management to coordinate all the government agencies involved. So you have coordinated leadership of police, fire, health, all the city agencies responding to that emergency. They've planned for this kind of event. Unfortunately, this is not a unique occurrence in the life of New York City or our country. Tragedies like this
happen. It's not a unique occurrence, but it is a very rare and extraordinary one.
It is extraordinary, and therefore, in New York City, we have coordinated response, and they're responding now and providing every help that they can under these extraordinary circumstances.
Hang on one second. We have a report now of an explosion on Capitol Hill, and we are checking that out. We have a report of a plane crashing at the Pentagon being evacuated, fire on the mall in Washington, the State Department evacuating, and we have all flights shut down across the country as officials sort out what's happening here. Randy, back to you for a second. How much of the, well, if I recall this correctly, there is what was called a bunker, the mayor's bunker for these sorts of events in the Trade Center, correct?
There is an emergency management center at the Trade Center.
You think clearly the mayor's not there?
I have not spoken with the mayor, so I don't know his physical location, but I do know that coordinated emergency response started immediately. It's something that the city prepares for, and it's something that, under these tragic circumstances, the city is doing everything it can to respond.
How much of the plan changed after the World Trade Center bombing in 93?
Well, there was no coordinated city response. There was no mayor's office of emergency management. Rudy Giuliani established that. It's been one of the hallmarks of his tenure. And unfortunately, there are extraordinary circumstances like this one where that coordinated effort has to come into play, and is coming into play now.
Why don't you, if you can, stay with us for a little bit. I suspect other questions are going to come up. I want to go through again what we know here at this point, and also point out some things that are not insignificant that we don't know. And one of the things we don't know is we do not now know how many fatalities there have been and how many injuries there are. We can only surmise that this has been catastrophic. Catastrophic event here in New York. Both Trade Center towers hit. One of them appears to have collapsed. How much of it collapsed is very much. In any case, we cannot tell you how many injuries, how many fatalities there have been. This is one of those situations that is extraordinarily chaotic. Even in the best of planning, I think it's fair to say that it is chaotic, and officials are trying to do many things at one time. We have on the phone a pilot who witnessed these planes crashing in to the World Trade Center. Sir, can you tell me your name? John, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
John, tell me what you saw.
This morning we were at Midtown Manhattan in a 31st floor of a building facing south. We saw 767 flying low down the center of Manhattan Island, heading towards downtown Manhattan. At about maybe 20 blocks north of the World Trade Center, we saw the plane veer to the left and fly directly into the north side of the South Tower.
So this was the second plane that hit the tower, correct?
This was the first plane.
Got it. John,
This was 767.
got it. John, hang on. Kate Snow on Capitol Hill. Kate, what can you tell us about the events there?
Well, I'm a couple of blocks away from the Capitol right now. I can tell you that about a half hour ago, the Capitol building itself was evacuated. It was a little bit chaotic. Everyone was running out of the building. People ran a couple of blocks away. We are now just pushed back by security. We're within 2 blocks of the Capitol. I did see myself a plane about a half hour ago circling over the Capitol. Now, whether that may have been an Air Force, a U.S. plane, is unclear. But that seems to be the reason, according to security guards that I talked with, for the evacuation of the Capitol. They had seen something or heard something suspicious. They've evacuated the Capitol and the surrounding buildings, the office building, at least on the House side, which is where I'm standing. There are 3 House office buildings. Those have also been evacuated. We're seeing members of Congress are walking by us here on the sidewalk. I can also, you go ahead.
Kate, I'm sorry, and if you said this, I apologize. And I apologize to viewers too. Was there, to your knowledge, an explosion at the Capitol?
No, sir, there was not. I can see the Capitol from here. Everything looks to be fine. There was, however, Aaron, a sound about 5 minutes ago that sounded like some sort of explosion. And everything's in close proximity here in Washington. It could be that may have been something that happened at the Pentagon. We're not very clear on that. But we did hear a sound. We heard something that sounded like a loud boom about 5 minutes ago.
And Kate, you were again how far away from the Capitol building itself?
I'm standing on Pennsylvania Avenue, which is a main artery in Washington, D.C., and I'm about 2 blocks away from the Capitol. I did just see a spokesperson, by the way, for the Speaker of the House, Mr. Hastert, Dennis Hastert, tells me that Mr. Hastert and other leaders have been evacuated into what he calls a secure location. I'm not clear where exactly they are, but they've been somewhere secure.
And because we can't see it at this point, just give me a sense of what it looks like there. Are there many people on the street?
Yeah, the sidewalks, people are calm. I think most people don't really know what's going on. Most people haven't been watching the news. But the sidewalks are definitely full of people where, normally at this time of the morning there wouldn't be that many people out here. And as I say, I've been passed by numerous members of Congress and senators and staff, who I know well, who have been coming past me asking me what's going on.
Okay, why don't you hang around here and continue to report on that. Let me just, again, for those viewers who are joining us at about 20 minutes past 10 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time, let me just briefly recap. Attacks on 2 American cities, New York and Capitol in Washington. It began at about 8:45 Eastern Time when a plane crashed into the World Trade Center. That building, that was the building hit first. And then about half an hour later, a second plane, and I'm not sure if we have the tape available. If we do, we'll show it to you. You can see the second plane coming in from the right side of your screen, going into the tower itself. This is an extraordinary and troubling piece of tape. The Justice Department is now being evacuated. The second attack on the Trade Center occurred about half an hour or so after the first one. We have a report, CNN has been told, that an American Airlines 767 jet was hijacked out of Boston today. We don't know which of those 2 planes hit the tower the second time. In the last 10 minutes or so, the South Tower, or at least a portion of the South Tower, has collapsed. CNN's David Ensor joins us from Washington. David, where in the Capitol are you now?
Well, Aaron, I'm in our bureau, but I have on the telephone with me Barbara, who is the wife of a friend of mine and who is an eyewitness to exactly what happened at the Pentagon. Barbara, can you hear me all right?
Yes, I can hear you.
Well, what exactly did you see? Let's look at the Pentagon now as you describe what exactly happened at the Pentagon this morning?
As we were driving into town on 395, there was an exit. We were trying to get off the exit for the Memorial Bridge. Off to the left-hand side was a commercial plane that came in and was coming too fast and too low. And the next thing we saw was it go down below the side of the road, and we just saw the fire. They came up after that.
How large was the explosion?
It was large.
Was there sound as well?
That I can't verify because the windows were up in the vehicle.
Was it clear to you what happened?
Yeah, definitely.
So you believe it was a commercial airliner that was hitting the Pentagon?
Yeah, and I'm not sure exactly where the Pentagon, where it was in relationship to where the plane went down. You know, but they are relatively close to one another. Whether it hit any part of that Pentagon, I'm not sure.
How low was the plane?
When it was coming down,
Yeah.
it was coming down on less than a 45-degree angle and coming down towards the side of the 395. And when it came down, it just missed the 395 and went down below it, and then you saw the fire come off on it.
Were you able to see what kind of plane or what airline it belonged to?
No, I did not see what kind of an airline. I just assumed because we were so close to the airport, it was coming into land.
But it seemed awfully low to you.
Yes, and fast.
How big was the fireball?
I'm spatially challenged at times, and it was pretty big.
What did you think was happening?
I know that hit the ground and exploded.
Were you frightened yourself?
Yes. Yes, everybody stopped the car and we all got so forth.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you talking to us. Aaron, back to you.
David, thank you. CNN's David Ensor in Washington. CNN Brian Palmer joins us on the phone from here in Manhattan. Brian, why don't you begin by telling me where you are?
We are in front of the criminal courthouse after being pushed north slightly. We watched one of the towers of the World Trade Center disappear from the skyline. It basically folded into itself in a plume of gray smoke. A crowd of thousands of people dashed up Broadway, calling on emergency services personnel. As we know now, we're watching the plume of smoke and debris just sort of flash across lower Manhattan, and people are lining up at the stage home behind me trying to find out whether they're going to the stage.
Let me just briefly go to Randy. Randy, just look out there and tell me what you're thinking when you see what now appears that at least part of one of the landmark buildings in this city, one of the most recognizable buildings in the country, is gone.
It's the kind of moment you hope will never come. When you have been in government, when you care as much about this city and this country as a mayor like Rudy Giuliani does, it's a moment you pray will never come, and you pray for the families of anyone affected by this tragedy. But as a city, we come together and our emergency services provide every support they can in the face of such a senseless tragedy.
It is an unbelievable scene as you look down, and when we stand here at some point every day looking out at the city this time of year, it's extraordinarily pretty, and you see those two buildings high above lower Manhattan, and you look out there today and you see this baby hole in one of them, these plumes of smoke that continue to pour from the scene, and you know that there's nothing behind. There's nothing power, or at least parts of it are gone. We join now one of our affiliates, WNYW, and their coverage here in New York. We'll try and make that connection again in two cities now, and there are a lot of pieces of information floating around. We need to try and button up some of this. We had a report earlier that we now we believe we can tell you is not correct, that there was an explosion at the Capitol. There was none, as we now believe. There was no explosion at the Capitol. Air travel routed to Canada has been international flights going into the United States or into Canada, guys. Into the United States. International flights headed for the United States are being sent to Canada now, to airports there, as all air traffic in the United States has come to a halt. The FAA has shut down every airport in the country, and to our knowledge, and this is to the best of our memory, that has never happened before. We're starting to get some pictures of the scene from the ground here in Manhattan. Again, this all started about almost an hour and a half ago, I guess, a little more than that. This is a live picture of the scene now. We have crews on the ground, and they've been trying to get tape back so we can show you the situation on the ground. As you can imagine, literally, thousands of police, fire, rescue officials have converged on the scene. There are, and we don't know how many, injured to be tended to be taken to hospitals, and we continue to check hospitals to find out how many, the extent of injuries. We do not yet know how many fatalities. There's the scene. This is tape now from WABC here in New York. Their crew shot this picture. As you see, fire trucks and firefighters, rescue personnel at the Trade Center about 30 blocks from where we are right now. And you can see these huge columns of smoke coming off of the front tower and then a bit from the back. As you see, again, the crews working their way towards the tower themselves. It was 1993 that I suspect many of these same firefighters converged on these very same towers after the bombing in the garage level. Help me with this, but I'm pretty sure it was in the garage when a Ryder truck came in and blew up in the garage. I'm not sure it was a Ryder truck, but a truck came in and blew up in the garage, and that was in 1993.
We heard a big bang, and we saw smoke coming out, and everybody started running out, and we saw the plane on the other side of the building, and there was smoke everywhere. People are jumping out the windows. Oh, yeah, they're jumping out the windows, I guess, because they're trying to save themselves. I don't know. And I don't know, everybody just doesn't know where to go. They won't let, everything is blocked off. You can't even, they tell us to get out, but there's nowhere to go. And then I heard that another plane hit, and if you go over by there, you can see the people jumping out the window. They're jumping out the window right now. Oh my God.
That is one of the witnesses to these extraordinary events this morning here in New York. Again, and I know that for many of you, you've heard this a lot, but I think it's important as people join us as they do in moments like this. They are coming in all the time, that there have been attacks in 2 American cities, New York and in Washington. The trade centers here in New York have been hit by airplanes. In Washington, there is a large fire in the Pentagon. The Pentagon has been evacuated. A portion of the side of the building now just being covered on the right side as I look at it, covered in smoke. This is just a horrific scene and a horrific moment. The president, who is in Florida today, is en route back to the White House. He took off a short time ago. The White House itself has been evacuated on the basis of what the Secret Service says was a credible threat on the mansion itself. We believe